One of my goals every year is to do some experimenting on the farm. I had a relative tell me one time, he said, yeah, I couldn't go into farming. I just wasn't interesting enough. There wasn't enough going on. And that's just crazy to me. There's always something new to try and test and figure out. And I'm like, you must have been thinking of some kind of farming where you just get on a tractor and plant something in the spring and harvest it in the fall and don't have anything to do the rest of the year, because there is always something to be excited about and try. This year, one of my biggest expenses here on the farm is my hay expense. My winter feeding cost is just absolutely horrible. I imagine it is for most people. Hay feeding, and then if you're profitable, taxes. Hay feeding is horrible, and so my goal is to get to where I'm feeding less than one bale per cow per year. So in the meantime, what I'm trying to do is learn how to feed that hay that I am going to feed more efficiently and better. Unrolling is my preferred method, but it takes a lot of time and labor and management. Usually takes some equipment, whether a tractor. I think I'm going to invest in a Greg Judy bale unroller here pretty quick. Unrolling is my preferred method. It seems to be better for the ground. They eat it pretty well. Some people say they don't waste as much. It depends. To me, it depends on the quality of hay and how much you make them clean up. If it's cold and wet, my cows are going to lay on it. There's some value in that too, especially if you do what I used to do and you got baby calves in the winter time, and I still have a few younger than I want them to be, but unrolling some hay is good insulation for those babies. So you could waste a little hay and call it your fertilizer bill, and that's what I've always done. And I still think there's value in that. But feeding in the racks, like we used to, growing up, we'd have racks set out, and we just put hay in the racks. So we had that, we didn't call it anything, but now I would call it a sacrifice lot, a sacrifice spot. Usually it was over in the edge of the woods or up on a hill or somewhere like that, and your cows were belly deep in mud by the time the season was over, and that's just miserable to me. It's miserable for the cows. It's miserable for me getting in and out, unwrapping hay in the mud. I want to keep my cows moving. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. I want to keep those cows moving. Depending on the time of year, again, ideally daily, but it's a work in progress. And being one guy working several herds, that's a tough challenge. So that was how we grew up doing it. I've got some bale rings over here. So in this field, I'm going to try two different methods. I'm going to use these racks for my longer term feed. So I always want to feed a couple days at a time or a few days at a time. So I've unrolled 3 bales. These cows ought to be eating, with it being cold like this, I'd think they'd eat 5 or 6% of their body weight. So 50,000 pounds, that's 3 bales, 1,000-pound bales. And then I'll fill these racks, and that should get me through tomorrow. And I'll check them the day after. They got some stockpile here too. They just don't know how to eat it. They're not going to be hungry, but we'll check it the day after tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see how the day goes, but today's going to be a pretty tough day for me. So putting out 3 bales in the racks, that should get them through tomorrow. This unrolled hay, pretty sparingly. Most people are going to tell you your cows are going to eat 3% per day of their body weight, and I think they're going to waste some. They're going to lay on some. Especially if I'm feeding 2 days, they're going to lay on more of this when they go over there and find out, oh, there's hay in the racks. So I know that I'm sacrificing some efficiency here and some cash to keep my cattle healthier and in better condition, and it's just the way that it has to be for labor and management. So again, I'm making a decision to give up a little money, call it fertilizer bill, but if you were just strictly trying to save hay, unroll it day after day after day after day, it's just a lot of work, a lot of labor, a lot of management, but it's the best thing to do for your pocketbook and for the cows probably. So the other way that I fed hay that I really like is bale grazing, but it's probably the least efficient way that I found. And you can, if you're checking it every day and moving them, feed them every day, it works really well. But if you're going to try to give them a week at a time and they decide they get hungry and that hot wire isn't maybe as hot as you'd like it to be, you're going to sacrifice a lot real quick. And so you still have to check it. It's just part of owning cattle. You got to check them. And if you feed it next to the road, which is nice, you can drive by and be like, yeah, we're good today. So that is kind of handy. But if not, you got to go back there and you got to check it and make sure they're not eating the next 3 or 4 days. Normally what I'd do with bale grazing is I'd have all my hay set up for usually about a month. It'd take me about 4 hours to put out a month's worth of hay for 35, 40 cows. And I'd have it set up in a checkered pattern. and then I would give about usually 3 bales at a time, depending on what my goals were. If I was going on vacation, I'd give them 2 sets, 2 rows or whatever, and however it works, knowing that if I go a longer period of time, they're going to waste more, and they're going to be hungrier when I get back. That's just how it is. The longer you go in between feeding, the more they're going to waste. They just have more time to sit on it, lay on it, pass bodily stuff on it, and they're just not going to eat it as well. So, but I do like the labor and the equipment management. And I was just getting started out and I didn't have a big tractor or didn't have any tractor, I could rent a tractor for a day. I could put out 30 days worth of hay, and then I could just go out there with my car, my truck, or my four-wheeler and feed cows for a day. That's a very efficient way to do it. If you've got your farm broken up into bigger paddocks, you could take, and didn't have somebody close to rent a tractor from, you could rent a tractor for a week, put out all your season's hay on that farm, and then just move them between your big paddocks. So I'll clarify that. So I've got a hard paddock over here. I've got a hard paddock here. They're separated by barbed wire fences. So at least then I know that if they get out and they eat all the hay here, if I'm not paying attention or something, I know they're not going to get into next month's hay supply. You've got to protect your asset. You've got to protect that hay. It's expensive anyway, and you can't let your cows just go out and fill their bellies with it and waste a bunch of it. It's too expensive. You can't do that. So at least for me, I got to make some money at this. So that was a pretty good way for getting started. That's one of the best ways I could see. Also doing the bale and roller thing, I don't have a lot of experience with it yet, but I will this winter. I've got a farm 18 miles from home, and I don't want to drive this tractor over there every single day. That's at least 2 hours of tractor time, and I got a family and other cows to feed. Those are the ways that I've experienced hay feeding. The ways that I'm going to do it this winter: we're going to unroll hay. I don't think I'm going to do any bale grazing this year. I'm kind of becoming more active, but bale grazing is a great thing. I do love bale grazing. The only issues that I really see with bale grazing is if you're not paying attention, they'll eat more hay than you want them to. They'll get into the next bunch or a month's worth of hay, and they'll chew on it until you get them out and get them sorted. It's a very frustrating experience. It doesn't have to happen, but sometimes, especially if there's ice or something getting on your wires and lay them down, it's just part of it. You just have to manage through it like anything else. So you got to check it. So bale grazing, yeah, it works good. The only other issue that I've had is a lot of times if you're not going to go through, and I never have, spread out those piles in the springtime, if you're not making them get it real clean, you're going to waste a little bit of any way that you're feeding other than a rack. And you can see they don't like this bale here. They're not going to eat any more of that. They'll starve themselves before they go back to that rack. It's just brushy. It's just a brushy grass bale. They'll lay on it when I move the rack. But anyway, the other thing about racks, I move my racks. They make a ring around the racks. That's a negative side. So the bale grazing thing, the issue is that you're probably going to grow some weeds there. You might not grow anything the first year. You might grow weeds the second year, and you might have a great third year after that. Usually after you get the weeds sorted out, everything looks great. But for your landlord, you might have to do some mowing on the first year or two while the ground's fixing itself. So the other thing you could do is spread some seed there. I haven't tried it, but I've seen it now, and that looks like it works pretty good. I don't know too much about it, but if I end up having some success with it, I'll let you know. But with your racks, the big issue is that they're going to make a mud pit around them. If you move them every day, that kind of limits that. But unrolling seems to be superior. It just takes more time, more labor, more management, more equipment. So hope this helps you guys. This is my experiment for the winter, and I'm pretty sure that I'm right. I'm pretty sure that feeding hay with an unroller is the best way to do it. I'm going to get one of those Greg Judy bale unrollers. I'll keep you guys posted. Sure appreciate you following along, and we appreciate a like and subscribe too. Thanks.